Rascal or Bethel or Dr. Jim. I mean, we're also watching each other.
You're not transparent to yourself, man.
I know.
Bucko.
So,
Word.
So, all right. So, Grim Grizz, let's do a sound check on him.
Hey.
We hear you.
All right. Good. The concern with regard to John is that he doesn't have any means of testing the spirits, and if he gave us some demonstration that he did, then there'd be less concern in that direction. I like what Dr. Jim brought to the table on this discussion. It's do you exist in a world where levitation is real? And everyone is just trusting the scholarship of this eerie fella to say these accounts actually happened, right? And so they lived in a world at the time when there was witch trials and people flew and such. And so then the thing is, what's the nature of the reality we exist in? Do people fly in it? We have cameras now, so theoretically people on the line could go find clips of people levitating today.
Yeah, and would it make a difference? We've got aliens on film. We've got ghosts on film.
And now we have AI that can make film that's more believable than film.
Exactly.
Speaking of AI,
And we're all bilocating as we
It's going
speak.
to get us out of these mixes.
But
Deeper than that.
if we
are we literally bilocating, Kale? Are we literally bilocating?
But verily, and seek and ye shall find. You wanted a re-enchantment of you wanted a recession of modernity with the tufa formations of magic and the spiritual plane to exist again in your reality. So
I didn't say I wanted it. I'm saying it's happening.
and it's important that Dr. Jim brought up the time that's when humans start burning each other at the stake again over what things are believing, and that he's a perennialist, because I kind of am rooting for a Christianity where we feed them to the lions again, and that's the kind of faith you have to say, I'm a Christian.
You
Are
first.
you not entertained?
Like, what? You're a Christian, sure, but would you be if there was a lion behind that door? And that's, I don't know. That's what lukewarm is defined as. And I think, but if it's the nature of reality that if we had enough faith, we could move the mountains. Then a lot of our faith probably goes into this. I don't know. I guess the guy called it an iron box, but I call it like a mustard seed blanket of like that stuff doesn't happen. Most of my faith goes into the notion that stuff like that doesn't happen. It's not part of my reality. And
this is where we get into. Sorry to jump in. I don't mean to please. Interrupt you, but I mean this is where we kind of again we circle back to Douglas's concern, to the concern other people's expressed, and a concern I would express with certain specific denominations of Christianity, like Pentecostalism, prosperity gospelism. You know, a lot of miracles seem to happen specifically in Pentecostal circles where people believe in that sort of stuff, right? So, you know, a lot of Pentecostals inhabit a world in which people are faith healed, right? To use your framing. But there's lots of problems I think you can find with that. There's problems you can find with prosperity theology.
Was Tammy faith healed?
She might have been. I think God heals people. I mean, that's a separate question from whether faith healers.
That's more to my point. It's like the nature of the reality we exist in is one in which now if you're going to bring in people floating, and we can tie Hermes into it, then also you get the weird ass channeling I was into before I found this little corner, and they had this
I get bad
beautiful
juju from that stuff.
Yeah. Like
Well, Grim's point is it real?
Of the three people that were doing it, no. My point is,
sorry, Grim, I jumped on you. Sorry.
Of the three people that were doing it, one of them ended up dead. So from know them by their fruits. But one of the interesting concepts in it was this thing called the law of confusion, and that is what enables free will. So you can exist in the reality where like the shroud.
The assassins.
The demon.
I've finally succeeded. Go ahead, Dr. Jim. You unmuted.
He had some very important.
I didn't have another comment.
No, he was just going to tell us about Hillary Clinton Sorry.
What were you going to say, Jim? You had another. Oh no, Grizz kind of the assassins have failed once again.
He's so wily.
Hey,
He's downright hermetic.
Yeah.
Relocating to different sites. The assassins are having a terrible time locating him completely.
The point is, as far as we know, I can exist in a reality where the Shroud of Turin is physical evidence of the resurrection of Christ, and you can exist in a reality where it's a fraudulent whatever. And those can both be actual realities, and we can still play in the same place together because of the law of confusion and free will. And it's instancing, like the way computer games instance scenarios, but it runs on the placebo faith. Never mind. I'm gonna go away now.
Right. I'm gonna try and help Mountie here. And CW would be really offended that I'm paying attention to this super chat, and I didn't pay as much attention as he wanted to his older super chat.
Well, Duxie,
but just for clarification, John Vervaeke, both on his Socrates series and then on a bigger video with Jordan Peterson, talked about the fact that he was doing some internal family systems work with a trusted friend, and while he was sort of imaginally working through the inner persons that are within him, another spiritual entity came in, sort of pushed it aside and said, "You're going to deal with me now." And John says, "Who are you?" And I'm Hermes. And, as many have noted, and John, which kind of to my surprise, mentions this on Jordan Peterson's podcast, so it's going to get a lot of visibility. And so there are
Hermes wishes to be heard.
Hermes wishes to be heard, and
he's a big platform.
He's using John.
Sorry.
And so, we've talked about this. I think Sam had some good ideas with respect to this, but obviously a lot of people hear this and say, "Oh, what is this, a demon?" Okay, could be. But how Hermes isn't incidental, and again, someone brought this to my attention recently, and it's been talked about quite a bit, isn't incidental in terms of his Silk Road project, right, Neoplatonism, sort of a perennialism. So we'll see who Hermes is and where Hermes takes John, and to a certain degree others in time. But again, to me, this is just another evidence of the recession of modernity, that this is what we're talking about now. And we're talking about the relationship between AI and the demonic. And, Dr. Jim rightly brings up, hey, wasn't that long ago that we burned people at the stake? So,
and I would just add that my concern about levitation and looking back historically includes the idea that in our present world, whatever you want to describe it as, you want to describe it as modernism or some sort of evolution beyond that, very likely has the exact same set of risks that, not the exact same, a modification, an evolution, a different version of risks that might lead us into traps that have similar kinds of consequences.
Yeah.
And so that I'm not trying to pin it on, I'm not trying to look back and say these were immature or kind of primitive, and we've now moved to some grand enlightened state now, and we're out of the woods. I would certainly not say that. And there's lots of examples in which that, could be found, could be grounded.
And many people will, they don't believe in anything, but they'll say Hitler was demonic. It's like, oh, what do you mean by that? Demonic then just means another word for evil, but really evil. Oh, okay. And I remember when James Lindsay was on my channel years ago now, he dropped the word demonic. And I thought, boy, James, that's a really interesting word for you to use.
One more quick comment, and something that is a deeply felt thing for me in terms of my Christian faith is that this is a particular challenge to Christianity writ large. I've felt this for a long time, that the problem of evil is not a particularly Christian problem. It's a problem. It's a human problem. And so theodicy doesn't necessarily strike me as something that Christians need to spend their time doing, because, everybody's got the same problem. But Christian history is a particular problem for Christians. And so that is, I don't know how to answer it, but for me, that is an important aspect of this as well.
Okay. All right.
Piece of shit theology. Sorry.
Go ahead, Alan.
I don't know. Maybe I'm taking too many steps back, but Paul often talks about the school spirit analogy for spirits. And I was thinking about, to add to that, imagine someone had all the stuff they used for Spirit Week at a school, like the banners, the little activities, the hula hoops, and then they put it in a closet, and then that closet got built over and forgotten about. And then there was no school spirit for a long time at the school. They're like, we're just here to learn. You put on a helmet, you learn in the helmet, and you go home. They're doing an addition, they break open the walls, they see, oh, there's all this stuff that someone made for the Spirit Week. That's like, that spirit wasn't in anybody.